Hello everyone, before we start, make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin.
Story 1. The Dispatcher's Last Call. Officer Daniel Huxley had been working the night shift in Brenton County, Ohio, for 8 years. By now, the endless miles of two-lane roads, the buzz of his cruiser's radio, and the distant hum of cicadas were the lullabies of his profession. Nothing ever truly happened out here. At least, not until the night of October 21st, 2019. The shift began like any other. At 10 p.m., Daniel sat in his cruiser outside the old Marathon gas station, sipping burnt coffee, the kind that felt like punishment rather than fuel. Dispatch, handled by a woman named Tina, had been quiet for almost an hour. Unit 12, status check, her voice crackled over the radio. Still alive out here, Tina, Daniel said, smiling to himself. Copy that. You and the raccoons. Same report every night. They'd worked together long enough to exchange sarcasm as comfort. But that night, something in Tina's voice seemed tense, strained, like she hadn't been sleeping well. Around 12:37 a.m., Daniel decided to do a drive-by near Mill Creek Road, a stretch infamous for deer strikes and teenage joyriders. His headlights cut through a faint mist that hadn't been there 10 minutes ago. He slowed the cruiser, watching the beams dance across the asphalt. Then the radio popped. Unit 12, respond to a 1057 at 44 Mill Creek Road. Daniel frowned. 10-57? That's a hit and run? Affirmative. Caller reports a vehicle off the road. Possible injury. He grabbed the mic. Copy that, dispatch. En route. But something didn't sit right. 44 Mill Creek Road wasn't just any address. It was abandoned. Everyone in Brenton County knew it. The house had burned down years ago. The owner, a reclusive man named Walter Reeve, was declared dead. The address had even been removed from the active list of dispatch coordinates. Still, protocol was protocol. As he drove, fog thickened into something unnatural. The trees seemed to bend inward, branches overlapping the road like skeletal fingers. His GPS, though glitchy in rural zones, began flashing between 44 Mill Creek Road and Knoll. He arrived within 10 minutes. The headlights found a dirt driveway leading into the dark remains of what might once have been a front yard. There was no visible vehicle, no tracks, no smell of gasoline or oil. Just silence. He radioed in. Dispatch, I'm at the scene. No sign of a vehicle or accident. You sure the caller gave this address? Affirmative, Tina replied, her voice distant. The call came in from the number registered to the residence. Daniel's skin prickled. You mean Reeves' property? There was a pause. Yeah, but Daniel, that number's been disconnected since 2014. He stared out the windshield. The fog pressed against the glass like something alive. Dispatch, I'm going to take a quick look on foot. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped into the night. The beam cut across broken wood, scraps of charred brick, and weeds reclaiming what used to be the foundation. Then his radio hissed again. Daniel, do you copy? Go ahead, static. Then faint breathing. Tina? But it wasn't Tina. The voice that came next was hoarse, low, and not human. Help! Me! Daniel froze. Who is this? Static again. The transmission cut out completely. He turned slowly, the flashlight shaking slightly in his grip. He told himself it could be radio interference, CB bleed, maybe some prankster. But deep down, a pulse of unease crawled through his chest. He crouched to inspect the dirt. Something glinted under his beam, a license plate, half buried. He pulled it free and wiped the grime. The numbers read 4XK-921. That plate belonged to a police cruiser, his own backup unit. Except his backup, Unit 14, was off duty. Officer Daniel Huxley stood in the ruins of the Reeve property, the unearthed license plate cold and slick in his hand. 4XK-921, his own department's numbering format. He raised the mic. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I found a plate belonging to one of our cruisers. Can you verify if Unit 14 is logged out for the night?" The radio hissed. No response. "Tina, you there?" Only static answered, then the faintest whisper, "He's still here." Daniel jerked upright. "Who's still here?" No reply. A rational mind would have driven straight back to the station, filed a report, and waited for daylight. But training and curiosity, those lethal twins, kept him there. He switched off his engine, leaving only the beam of his flashlight slicing through the fog. Somewhere deeper among the burned ruins, a shape moved. "Hello?" he called out, his voice steady only because he forced it to be. "Brenton County Sheriff's Department. Is anyone hurt?" Silence stretched out. Then a faint metallic clink echoed, like a radio mic dropping onto concrete. He followed the sound around the remnants of a chimney. The air smelled of damp ash and rust. Then his light found a handheld police radio, half buried beneath soot. He lifted it, brushing off the dirt. It was labeled Unit 14. He turned it on. The speaker crackled to life, screeching feedback first, then a low, distorted voice. "Help me, Danny." He froze. Only Tina called him Danny. "Tina, where are you?" he whispered. "Inside." "Inside where?" The call. The transmission broke into a garbled shriek. Then, through the noise, another frequency bled in. An automated 911 loop repeating, "Brenton County Emergency Line, please hold." Daniel's chest tightened. He walked toward what was left of the house's basement steps. Half the entrance had caved in, but a gap big enough for a man remained. The flashlight beam disappeared into the hole like it had been swallowed. He took a deep breath, pressed the mic to his chest, and started down. Each step creaked under his boots, the wood softened by years of rot. The deeper he went, the colder it became. At the bottom, the air tasted of mold and something chemical, old fuel maybe. The light swept across a half-collapsed basement, rusted shelving, blackened pipes, and what looked like remnants of a shortwave radio set. Then his beam landed on something that made his stomach knot. Pinned to the far wall with rusted nails were photographs, dozens of them, curled and yellowed. They were all of dispatch stations, the same kind of console Tina worked from. And in each picture, a faint figure stood behind the operator, tall, faceless, wearing a dark officer's uniform. Daniel reached for one photo, and as he did, his own radio burst alive. "Daniel, you shouldn't have come." It was Tina's voice again, but warped, like it was coming from deep underwater. He swallowed hard. "Talk to me, Tina." "Where are you?" "I tried to hang up, but it wouldn't let me." "Who?" A long pause, then almost a whisper, "The voice from Reeves' house." The flashlight flickered. Daniel turned, heart pounding. A shadow moved along the far wall, slow, deliberate, as though watching him. He aimed the light toward it. The beam hit a corner mirror, cracked down the center. His reflection stared back, but it was wrong. The reflection of his face was wearing a headset, just like Tina's dispatch rig. And in the reflection's hand was a radio mic, even though Daniel's was clipped to his own shoulder. The reflection's mouth began to move, though Daniel said nothing. The sound came through his own radio. "You answered the call, Danny. Now you're part of it." He stumbled back, breathing fast. "Who are you?" The mirror fogged from the inside, as though something behind it exhaled. Suddenly, his real radio screamed a feedback tone so loud it made him drop it. When the noise stopped, the basement was utterly still again, except for a new sound, a faint phone ringing. It wasn't his cell. It wasn't the cruiser's. It was coming from beneath the floor. Daniel dropped to his knees, scraping at loose boards until his fingers hit something solid. He pulled up a broken panel, and there, lying in the dirt, was an old rotary telephone, its receiver vibrating. He hesitated, then picked it up. The line clicked. "Brenton County Dispatch," said Tina's voice. "What's your emergency?" Daniel's mouth went dry. "Tina, it's me, Daniel. What the hell is going on?" Silence. Then the voice continued in the same calm, rehearsed tone. "This line is no longer active. Please remain on the call." He hung up. The second he did, a door slammed upstairs, hard enough to shake dust from the rafters. He pointed the flashlight upward. He could hear boots walking on the old floorboards. 1 step, 2, 3. Someone was up there. He moved back towards the stairs slowly, weapon drawn, flashlight trembling. At the top of the stairs, a silhouette stood in the fog. A man, wearing a Brenton County deputy uniform. "Identify yourself," Daniel barked. The figure didn't move. Then, as Daniel stepped closer, the beam revealed the man's badge number, 14, Unit 14. The figure smiled faintly, eyes completely black. "You took my call," it said in a voice that wasn't human at all. Daniel stood frozen at the base of the stairs. The thing wearing Unit 14's uniform tilted its head slowly, like a puppet trying to understand how to mimic life. Its mouth hung slightly open, and when it spoke again, the words didn't match the movement of its lips. "You took the call, Daniel," it rasped. The way it said his name, slow, deliberate, made the skin behind his neck crawl. "Who are you?" he demanded, raising his gun. The figure took a step down. The wood groaned beneath its boots. "I'm the one she left on hold." A sudden wave of pressure hit Daniel's ears, like the air itself had thickened. The basement walls seemed to bend inward. The flashlight dimmed, sputtered, and went out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. He fumbled for the radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I've got a 1032 at the Reeve property. Officer down or impersonator. Need backup. Static." Then, through a whisper of feedback, came Tina's voice again, weak, terrified. "He hears you, Daniel." "Don't speak on the line." Daniel froze. "Tina?" But it wasn't her anymore. The next voice was the same deep, distorted one that had first called him to this address. "You're still transmitting." A hand, cold, rough, grabbed his wrist in the dark. Daniel fired his gun, the flash momentarily lighting the stairs. The figure was gone, replaced by shadows twisting like smoke. Then came the ringing again. The old rotary phone under the floor, the one that shouldn't exist. It was shrill, constant, mechanical, and yet somehow pleading. He picked it up without thinking. "Who is this?" There was breathing on the other end. A man's, shaky, panicked. "This is Officer Daniel Huxley," said the voice. He froze. "That's not funny." "I'm at 44 Mill Creek Road," the voice continued, desperate. "I found a police cruiser plate, 4XK921. I think something's wrong. Dispatch, can you hear me?" Daniel's hand trembled. That was his voice, Word for word. The same tone. The same breathing pattern. The voice kept going, panicked now. "Dispatch, please!" The line cut off. He dropped the receiver. The world around him began to shift. The walls flickered between burned-out wood and pristine drywall, like the house was alive in two timelines at once. He stumbled backward, gasping, and saw a movement in the corner. Tina. She was sitting at an old dispatch desk, headset on, staring at a dead screen that flickered with radio codes. "Tina!" he shouted. She turned slowly, her face pale, eyes wide with something beyond fear. "He keeps calling," she whispered, "every night. The same voice." "Who?" Her lip quivered. "You!" The sound of her voice made the world tilt. Daniel shook his head. "No, I'm here. You're hallucinating." She grabbed his hand. Her skin was ice cold. "You don't understand. The Reeve property burned because he tried to end the signal. It doesn't stop when we hang up." "What signal?" "The one that answers itself." Behind her, the console lit up. Every button flashed red. A chorus of voices erupted, dozens of officers calling in distress, some crying, some screaming for backup, all of them repeating the same final phrase. "Unit 12, responding, 44 Mill Creek Road." Over and over and over. Daniel felt the air closing in. He looked toward the basement steps, and the figure in Unit 14's uniform stood there again, smiling. "You're next on the rotation," it said softly. He fired twice. The bullets passed through it like smoke. Tina screamed. The lights above them flared white, then blew out completely. Daniel dropped to his knees, the world spinning. He could still hear the radio voices, all calling his name now, all saying it wrong, dragging out the syllables like they were savoring them. "Dan-ni." The ground split beneath him. He fell backward into the void. He woke up sitting in his cruiser. Morning sunlight poured through the windshield. The fog was gone. His radio hummed quietly with normal dispatch chatter. "Unit 12, status?" Tina's voice said, calm and professional. He grabbed the mic, hands shaking. Yeah, everything's fine. False alarm." "Copy that," she replied. "You sound tired. Head back to base." Daniel looked around. The dirt road was normal again. No ruins, no fog, just empty forest. He started the engine and turned the car toward town. But then he noticed the plate lying on the passenger seat, 4XK-921. He slammed the brakes, heart pounding. The phone on the dash, a personal line he used for family calls, started ringing. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Brenton County Dispatch," a man's voice said. "What's your emergency?" Daniel's blood went cold. "Who is this?" "This is Officer Daniel Huxley," said the voice. "I'm at 44 Mill Creek Road. I think something's wrong." The call ended. He threw the phone onto the passenger seat and floored the gas back toward town. But halfway there, his radio came alive again. "Unit 12, respond to a 1057 at 44 Mill Creek Road." Daniel gripped the steering wheel, shaking his head violently. "Negative, dispatch. There's no 44 Mill Creek Road. That property doesn't exist." A pause. Then, in Tina's voice, "Copy that. But Daniel, who told you my name?" Static, and then silence. Brenton County Sheriff's Office reports that Officer Daniel Huxley went missing on the night of October 22, 2019. His patrol cruiser was found idling near Mill Creek Road, doors open, radio still transmitting. The last recorded dispatch log reads, "Unit 12, status check, 0041 a.m. Response: I'm still alive out here, Tina. Tina, real name Christina Lowry, resigned 2 weeks later. When investigators collected her equipment, they found a single audio file saved on her console, time-stamped 3 days after her resignation. It was a 27-second recording. A voice identical to Daniel's whispered through static, "Help me." I answered the call. Story 2. Unit 47. The stretch of Highway 47 that cut through the Colorado Plains was known for 3 things: endless cornfields, spotty radio signals, and a deathly silence after midnight. Officer Mark Renner had patrolled that road for 6 years, and it bored him senseless. Nothing ever happened out there, just truckers, coyotes, and the occasional drunk speeding through the fog. But that changed the night of December 3rd, 2021, when he got the call about the Phantom sedan. Unit 47, report of a black vehicle stalled on mile marker 92. No plate, lights flickering, came the voice of Dispatch Rivera, steady and monotone as always. Renner sighed, reaching for his thermos. Copy, Dispatch. Probably another joyrider ran out of gas. Caller says the car's been there 3 nights in a row. Same exact spot. Renner frowned. 3 nights? You sure it's not just abandoned? That's what the county tow said yesterday. But when they went to pick it up, nothing was there. He looked out into the dark horizon. The sky was moonless, thick clouds swallowing the stars. All right, I'll check it out. The drive took 20 minutes. Wind battered the cruiser, carrying the faint wail of distant freight trains. Renner's headlights stretched endlessly down the cracked asphalt until, at last, he saw it. A black 1990s Crown Victoria, hazard lights blinking. He slowed to a crawl. Dispatch, I've got visual on the vehicle. No occupants visible. Copy, Unit 47. Proceed with caution. He stepped out, the cold biting through his jacket. The hazards flashed in steady rhythm, 2 red eyes pulsing in the dark. He approached the driver's side door, hand resting near his holster. The window was fogged over. He wiped it with his sleeve and shined his flashlight inside. The seats were empty. He opened the door slowly. It wasn't locked. Inside, the smell hit him first. Stale, sour, faintly metallic. The kind of smell you only noticed after something had died. He leaned in. The keys were still in the ignition. The radio, though powered off, buzzed faintly like it was catching a frequency that wasn't there. He picked up the mic. Dispatch, plate check. Stand by. Plate reads. Actually, there is no plate. Repeat. Vehicle has no registration, no markings. Looks like an old state cruiser. Maybe decommissioned? There was silence on the other end. Then Rivera said quietly, "We haven't used Crown Vics since 2014. Renner exhaled, uneasy now. Yeah, well, one of them sitting right here. The passenger seat held a folded document, old and yellowed. He lifted it into the flashlight beam. It was a Highway Patrol incident report. Filed under Officer Thomas D. Renner, Unit 47. Date, December 3rd, 2011. Renner froze, his full name, his same call sign, the date, exactly 10 years earlier. He dropped the paper, heart hammering. Dispatch! Rivera! You copy? But the radio only hissed. Then, from the car's speakers, came a whispering voice. Not Rivera, not static. Something older, softer. Mark, you're late. He stumbled backward. The headlights on his cruiser flickered. The Crown Vic's engine coughed once, then roared to life on its own. The gear shift moved without a driver, the car rolling forward slowly, lights still blinking. Renner jumped into his cruiser and started after it, adrenaline spiking. "Dispatch! I've got a 1054, vehicle in motion with no operator, requesting backup, mile 93 eastbound." No answer. The black sedan rolled down the empty highway at exactly 47 miles per hour, not faster, not slower, always 47. He followed for nearly 5 minutes, headlights locked on the taillights ahead. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the car veered onto the shoulder and came to a stop. Renner stepped out again, gun drawn. The driver's door creaked open by itself. A man's voice echoed faintly inside the car. "Report your status, Unit 47. Renner's throat tightened. That voice, he knew it. It was his own. He ran back to the cruiser, breathing hard. "Dispatch, I need confirmation. Who's operating this channel?" Static. Then Rivera's voice returned, but distorted. "You shouldn't be on that frequency, Mark." "What the hell does that mean?" Unit 47 was terminated 10 years ago. The line went dead. Renner stared out through the windshield at the black car. Its hazard lights had stopped blinking. Its door was wide open, and faintly through the dark, he could see a shape sitting in the driver's seat now. A human shape. He raised his flashlight and froze. The man in the car looked exactly like him. Older, gaunter, but unmistakably him. The face staring back at him from the driver's seat was unmistakable. Mark Renner's own. He stood frozen on the asphalt, the night air colder than before, every breath fogging in front of his visor. His mind scrambled for logic. Some elaborate prank? A cruel coincidence? But the man in the car smiled. Not a kind smile, a slow knowing one that tugged the corners of his mouth upward just enough to show teeth. "Who the hell are you?" Mark shouted. The doppelganger tilted his head, as though amused. "I told you already," he said in a low rasp. "I'm Unit 47. Mark's heart pounded. "No, you're not." "I'm Unit 47. The man in the car chuckled softly and tapped the side of the radio on the dash. "Then why does dispatch only answer me?" Before Mark could react, the car's door slammed shut on its own, and the engine roared back to life. The sedan sped off down the highway, its taillights burning red trails through the fog. "Dispatch, this is Officer Renner," Mark shouted into his shoulder mic as he ran back to his cruiser. "Possible suspect impersonating an officer, vehicle fleeing eastbound on 47. Static, then faintly. Unit 47, in pursuit of Unit 47. His blood turned to ice. He slammed the gear into drive and floored it. The tires screamed, gravel spitting out behind him. The cruiser's headlights sliced through the mist, chasing those twin red taillights ahead. But no matter how fast he went, the sedan never grew closer. The speedometer read 91 miles per hour, then 98, then 104, yet the distance never changed. And then the road looped. 1 second he was at mile marker 95, then 96. And suddenly, the next sign he passed read 92 again. He blinked hard, shaking his head. No, no, no. He slowed the car and turned on his GPS. The map glitched wildly, coordinates spinning in circles before displaying an impossible reading. 47 degrees, 47 minutes, 47 seconds north, minus 104 degrees, 47 minutes, 47 seconds west. Everything seared into that number. He slammed the dashboard. "Dispatch, I need air support or GPS confirmation. The road's looping on me. But when the radio came alive, it wasn't Rivera's voice. It was his own, distorted and hollow. 10 years, still can't find the exit. Mark's hands trembled. Who is this? You already know. Suddenly, headlights appeared behind him, the black sedan again. But now it was tailing him. He swore under his breath, accelerating, but the sedan matched every move. He could see the reflection of his own face in the windshield behind him, smiling that same dead smile. Jesus Christ, he muttered, gripping the wheel. Then, boom! A blinding flash erupted ahead. His cruiser slammed to a stop as the black car vanished into the light. When his vision cleared, he was standing on the shoulder again. No cruiser, no sedan. Just empty highway, stretching forever in both directions. The fog lifted slightly, revealing something new in the field beside him. A cluster of twisted metal and broken glass. He stumbled closer. The wreckage looked decades old, the faded outline of a police decal still visible on the door. The number on the fender read, Unit 47. Mark fell to his knees. No, that can't be. Inside the wreck, he saw what was left of a uniformed officer, skeletal remains still buckled in, a badge glinting faintly on the chest. The tag read, Renner, M. He staggered backward, heart slamming in his chest. That's impossible. I'm right here. The radio on the corpse's shoulder flickered with static, then came to life. Unit 47, report your status. Mark snatched the mic from the body's uniform. Dispatch, this is Officer Mark Renner. I'm alive. Do you copy? A long pause. Then a voice replied, Rivera's, but distant, faint. Mark, we buried you 10 years ago. He froze. Rivera, that's not funny. We found your cruiser at mile 92, engine cold. You didn't answer your radio. We thought, her voice broke slightly, we thought you fell asleep at the wheel. Mark looked around wildly. No, I'm standing right here. Damn it, I can see the wreck. The radio crackled again, but now there were two Rivera voices overlapping, one calm, one trembling. The calm one said, Copy that, Unit 47. Good work out there. The trembling one whispered, Mark, if you can hear me, don't follow the lights. Then both cut off. He turned towards the road and froze. A line of headlights appeared on the horizon, one after another, silent and synchronized. Dozens of black Crown Victorias, engines off, lights glowing faintly like candles in the mist. Each one was idling in the middle of the road, facing him, and inside each car sat an officer, motionless, identical to him. Every version of himself turned its head at the same moment. One by one, they all raised their radios. And in unison, they spoke. Unit 47, report your status. Mark bolted into the cornfield, sprinting until his lungs burned. The fog thickened again, suffocating, curling through the rows like smoke. He could still hear the radios behind him, their voices following, echoing endlessly. Unit 47, status. Unit 47, status. Unit 47, status. Finally, he stumbled into a clearing and stopped cold. There, in the middle of the field, was a small concrete shack. The sign on the door read, State Trooper Radio Relay Station, 47. He pushed the door open. Inside, ancient radio consoles blinked faintly, covered in dust. A single microphone sat in the center, still active, its light glowing red. He picked it up. Story 3. Echoes of Fort Redstone. Retired Major Samuel Sam Harlow hadn't set foot on Fort Redstone in over 20 years. The base, once a top-secret training facility in upstate New York, had been decommissioned in 1998. Buildings crumbled under ivy and rust, but rumors persisted. Soldiers who trained there swore the alarms never truly stopped. Sam hadn't believed them until the day a letter arrived. No return address. Just one line, typed on thin yellowed paper. "Come back, Major." It's waiting. Curiosity, pride, and a strange sense of duty pulled him back. He parked his dusty SUV at the gate, now chained and padlocked, but the chain sagged mysteriously as though unlocked from the inside. The air smelled of mold and decay, tinged with the faint ozone of old electronics. Inside the base, the main gate was a skeleton of metal. Rusted guard towers leaned like sentinels. Sam's boots crunched over gravel, each step echoing in a silence so complete it pressed against his eardrums. His flashlight cut a cone of weak light across barracks, mess halls, and the gymnasium, all abandoned, all frozen in 1990s decay. Then came the first sound, a distant alarm, faint, metallic, repeating in uneven bursts. He froze, hand on his sidearm. The sound wasn't part of any standard drill. He had memorized every alarm pattern in his career. "Hello?" he called, voice low. "Is someone here?" No reply, except the alarm growing louder. It echoed down hallways that should have been blocked, around corners he hadn't passed yet. The sound pulsed in his chest, a rhythm he couldn't ignore. Sam moved cautiously towards the main control tower. The stairwell was partially collapsed, but he climbed anyway, each step trembling under rust and rot. At the top, he found the control room, walls lined with consoles, buttons, and switches coated in dust. But the monitors flickered, active, displaying grainy black and white footage of the base's streets, now overgrown and empty, except for him. One monitor focused on a hallway far below. A figure in uniform moved across the screen. It was his height, his build, but the camera never caught a face. Every time the figure turned, it seemed to fade, like static filling the corners. The alarm escalated into a shriek, echoing across every metal surface. Sam pressed his palms to his ears, nausea rising. He tried to leave. The stairwell had vanished. The hallways no longer matched the memory of the base. Rooms stretched impossibly long. Ceilings rose, doors led to walls, and hallways looped back on themselves. A voice came over an old PA speaker, distorted but familiar. "Major Harlow, your tour isn't over." Sam froze, his heart hammered. The voice, it was his own. He backed into a wall. Shadows stretched, twisted, forming soldiers in faded uniforms, faceless, but moving in precise formation. They raised rifles and saluted him. The salute twisted into a gesture of warning, pointing toward the command center, which had appeared where a blank wall had been moments before. Compelled by something he couldn't explain, Sam moved forward. The closer he got, the more the alarms became voices, whispers overlapping like a choir. "Unit, Major, complete, last tour." Inside the command center, a single chair faced him. A console beside it lit up, buttons flashing red. On the screen, a live feed showed Sam standing exactly where he had entered. Behind him in the feed, dozens of faceless soldiers mimicked his movements. "Major Harlow, sit," the distorted voice said. Sam tried to resist, but the floor beneath him tilted, guiding him to the chair. He sat. The console lit up fully, buttons pressing themselves. Maps of the base appeared, marking locations he didn't recognize. Coordinates pulsed in red. "Welcome back. Your last mission never ended." He tried to stand, Invisible force held him down. The monitors flickered rapidly. Training exercises, weapon tests, simulations he had overseen decades ago. Each flash showed a soldier being replaced by a faceless version of himself. Every image etched fear deeper into his chest. Then came the final sequence, a countdown. 10 minutes, 9, 8. Each number echoed like a heartbeat. Suddenly, the faceless soldiers surrounded him in the room, moving silently. He raised his hands in surrender, voice shaking. "What do you want from me?" The voice, his own, responded, "Calm now. Completion. Every officer has a final duty. Yours is to join us. Forever." Sam's vision blurred. The consoles merged into light. The faceless soldiers reached out, touching him. Cold, metallic, and impossibly heavy. His body felt drawn into the screens, into the coordinates, into the base itself. Then silence. Morning sunlight spilled over Fort Redstone. The gates hung undisturbed. No alarms, no consoles, no console lights. Sam Harlow was gone. The only evidence left behind was his abandoned SUV at the gate, radio still crackling faintly. If anyone tuned in, they would hear a calm, familiar voice repeating endlessly, "Unit 47, Major Harlow, standing by."
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe.